so much for doing this.
Well, thanks for doing it. I'm
Of
so
course.
sorry I'm late. I know I'm coming late. But
Not at all. It gave
I'm-
us more chance to tweak the lights for the 50,000th time. So.
You're doing well?
Yes. How often are you coming into the office these days?
About 2 to 3 days a week, yeah. How about you? I guess you come in.
Yeah, I'm in every day now, so no more kids on the set. I have to ask, is your son still mining Ethereum?
He and I literally were talking about it last night. He's like, Dad, you are the one who made me give up on it. I'm like, no, I didn't. But yeah, the thing that's good about this is I think it excites a whole new generation about technology, which is good.
I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you for doing it, and thank you for
really
coming down to do it.
I'm ready to go when you guys are.
From Google headquarters in Mountain View, California, this is Bloomberg Studio 1.0 with Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai. Born and raised in India, Pichai had almost no access to a computer until college, but just years later found himself rising through the ranks of the world's largest search engine. In 2015, it was Pichai that Google co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin chose to run Google and later Alphabet. Now valued at more than $2 trillion, it's one of the most powerful companies on the planet.
Sundar, it's great to be with you today.
Thanks for doing this.
Great to be here in person. Google just hit a $2 trillion market cap. Alphabet, I should say. Where is the next $1 trillion going to come from?
You know, I've always felt, your market cap valuation is an effect of the value you provide. And I feel fortunate our mission is timeless. There is more need to organize information than ever before. I still feel search is our biggest moonshot as a company. People will want radically more conversational experiences. They will want what we call multimodal experiences. They may speak to search. They may look at something and ask what the information is. Being able to adapt to all that and evolve search will continue to be the biggest opportunity. We are so excited about, be it YouTube, cloud, our hardware products, Google Play. So we're building a diverse set of businesses, and underlying all of it is the investments we are making in AI. We've invested $100 billion in R&D in the past 5 years. And so applying AI in a deep way is probably where we will create the biggest opportunity ahead.
Microsoft is making some big acquisitions. Apple's anti-ad tracking technology is shaking up the industry. What do you make of these competitive moves? Your competitors say they're on the right side of history. Are they?
I look at the fact that there are 3 billion people who have access to knowledge at their fingertips. I look at the opportunity we provide. I look at the skills people are learning through YouTube. I feel it everywhere when I go talk to people. And providing access to information and knowledge, I think will end up being on the right side of history as well.
Your predecessor, Eric Schmidt, told me that he feels the latest Facebook revelations are disturbing. Google also has access to massive amounts of our data. Why should half the world's population, more than half the world's population, trust Google to do the right thing?
We are trying to do more with less data. One of the biggest changes we made was making auto-delete the default setting for new users signing in, and now over 2 billion users have their data continuously being deleted. Look, we rely on trust for people. Every day when people come to Google, they place their trust in us in vulnerable moments. It may be a health issue on which they are trying to understand. There's no more important responsibility we have than doing right by that trust. When we provide Gmail to journalists and realize that their accounts may be under attack by an authoritarian government. That's what motivates us to make sure, be it privacy, be it security, be it trust, we are doing the right thing. Over time, regulation will have an important role to play here. I think privacy regulation is important. In areas like AI, regulation will be important. And so I think those will be part of the answers as well.
The Facebook fallout, that Instagram can be toxic to teens, for example. Has this raised more or new concerns for you about the impact of technology, tech addiction, algorithms, YouTube even, on our children and their development and their mental health? You're a parent and you also have a lot of power over how this plays out.
like you, bringing kids up in this modern digital world is something I think all parents are anxious about, rightfully so. I think, it's part of why a few years ago when in YouTube, we were exposed to a set of concerns, we invested, it became our number one priority to work hard at it. The reason YouTube invested so much in developing YouTube Kids as a safe destination for young children and so on. Look, technology is going to play a big role in helping give children the next wave of opportunity as well. So the answer is to develop it responsibly. We have changed our balance in these areas and saying we think about content responsibility first, and then the pace of development or new features in areas like YouTube. And so that's how we have approached it for a while.
Facebook and Microsoft are all in on the metaverse. What do you think about the metaverse? What's Google's metaverse strategy?
It's always been obvious to me that computing over time will adapt to people and people adapting to computers. You won't always interact with computing in a black rectangle in front of you. So just like you speak to people, you see and interact, computers will become more immersive. They'll be there when you need it to be. So I've always been excited about the future of immersive computing, ambient computing, AR. And
Does that count as the metaverse? Is that what that is?
Metaverse is, I think it means different things to different people. The way I think about it is evolving computing in an immersive way with augmented reality. As part of that, there'll be many experiences, some of which will be immersive, interactive virtual worlds, which is the metaverse concept. And, but I think this doesn't belong to any company, right? I mean, this is the evolution of internet and, the web, the internet, all of it will continue to evolve.
Google was famous for its campuses where you could go and never leave. You had everything you ever wanted. Now you've said they can be flexible. They can work from home. They can work at the office. They can be hybrid. They can work remotely permanently, perhaps. Are you committed to really letting them do this forever? And if so, how does that change the future of work and society?
Look, we've really embraced the fact that the future is going to be flexible. At Google, we've always tried to give, agency to our employees. But we do realize the importance of bringing people together, the creativity, community, and collaboration that comes with it. So the balance we are striking is this notion of 3-2. But we are giving the strength of our company is we have more locations than most of the companies. So we're giving people choice to move anywhere in the world. 4 weeks they can work from anywhere. We're going to accommodate 20% of our workforce to be remote over time. So we're going to embrace that flexibility and
forever.
Forever, yeah. And we're committed to it. Through it all, it forces us to design better products. And since people use Google Workspace to run their companies, I think it gives us a chance to innovate and bring all that out. I think there is so much value in giving people more flexibility between their personal and professional lives. And I think it will lead to people being happier. And I think companies can be successful in that model. And so we are trying to get the best of both worlds, but embrace the flexibility and see where we go.
How confident are you that when you look back, you'll be able to say Google did enough to help save the world?
We are putting so much energy and resource into it.
You grew up in India. You lived through droughts. Water was scarce. How has that experience shaped your feelings about the urgency of stopping climate change?
I grew up in Chennai, India, and a big part of my childhood was, really pretty severe water scarcity. We would get water trucked in for the streets and stand in lines and carry a few buckets of water home. There was no running water for many years. And, but fast forward a few years ago, Chennai had 1 in 100-year flood, which was a very extreme event, kind of drove home. That combined with a few years ago, waking up to the orange skies here in the Bay Area, seeing the look of concern on my children's faces and having to explain it, all kind of drove home in a deeply personal way for me. So I think it's the most defining issue we all face and definitely something very motivated on working towards.
I remember waking up to those orange skies too and having to have that same conversation with my kids. Do you think the commitments at COP26 went far enough?
I'm encouraged by many things. We have to tip our hat to the people who are working super hard. The issues and the trade-offs are genuinely difficult. You have to keep the economies growing. It really matters. But at the same time, it's a pretty severe, urgent issue. So I'm encouraged by the progress. I think it builds on the Paris Agreement. So I can see the forward progress. There is the deep anxiety that it all may not be enough. But we have to be optimistic and keep pushing.
Google has set some aggressive targets to run entirely on clean energy, to be the first tech giant to do so 24 hours a day. How confident are you that when you look back on this time, let's say a decade from now, you'll be able to say Google did enough to help save the world?
We are putting so much energy and resource into it. It's always been kind of a founding value for us. We've been carbon neutral since 2007. We've been matching our energy consumption with renewable energy over the past few years. So this, we are now pushing, it's a moonshot to be 24/7 carbon free. That means every search you do, every email you send, that we can do it carbon free. We were at 61% in 2019. The number is now 67%. We have set our goals to be 100% by 2030. And to do it globally, that means we have to solve new things which we haven't done before.
Mm-hmm.
Wind and solar alone won't be enough.
Mm-hmm.
We just started geothermal in Nevada. We will be investing in newer technologies, including carbon capture, et cetera, over time. So that's what excites me. We are a technology company at heart. So there are many answers to this problem. Some of it is that we are going to have to innovate our way out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, we want to push as hard as possible in doing that.
Our Bloomberg New Economy Forum is happening this year in Singapore, and the Asia Pacific region is one of the fastest growing internet economies on the planet. Where do you see the most room, the most opportunity for Google to grow there?
It's such a fitting time frame. I'm glad you're focused on the region. It's the most vibrant region we see. It's our 20th year since we opened our office in Tokyo. It was the first office outside the Bay Area. You have 2.5 billion people on the internet. There are many areas in which they're leapfrogging trends which are here and embracing the future. Digital payments is a great example. So many of our products originated from APAC, Google Maps, Google Pay. A lot of our journey to bring computing to more people is playing out in Asia as well. I am excited about also the work we are doing through cloud because the companies there are rapidly transforming themselves digitally. So a chance to provide that is something very exciting for us. So super dynamic region. I feel like we are learning as Google being in the region. And so I think it'll transform. The first 10 years, I would have said we took products here and brought it to APAC. Over the past few years, we are beginning to build things there. And some of our future global products will be APAC first and rest of the world later.
You can't talk about APAC without talking about China. And you're facing stiff competition from Chinese tech giants there and beyond. What should U.S. policymakers know about competing with China?
There's a lot of conversations about U.S. and China. The competition is fierce. When you look at areas like AI and quantum computing, where we are investing a lot, the Chinese companies are neck to neck. What I think about, I was encouraged by the news coming out of Glasgow about the U.S.-China agreement on climate. To me, while we talk about all the areas where we are competing, some of the biggest areas which are common challenges for all of humanity. The pandemic was one. AI and AI safety over time will be a shared one. Obviously, sustainability is another area like that. So I think these are all areas in which the countries can come together. And so I think that's a way by which we think about as, when we compete on the internet, and there may be different visions of how the internet plays out. So I see opportunities both sides.
What are the chances that Google Search will ever come back to China, or that Google Cloud would ever come to China?
Today we don't provide most of our signed-in services in China, and I don't see that changing. But there are ways, as I said, in areas like AI or sustainability, I think there'll be opportunities for us to work together. Through cloud, we will support multinational companies which have presence everywhere. And so maybe there are opportunities to work that way as well.
AI is advancing at an astonishing rate, and it is hard to understand sometimes what this really means. In concrete terms, how will our lives look different, let's say 10 years from now, as a result of AI?
Done correctly, in many ways, it's going to be helpful to you. You'll take it for granted. The same way today, for example, in India, over 1/3 of the queries on many phones come through voice. That is something people take for granted. You can do it. So over time, you'll expect to speak and be able to understand any language in the world. And those are all ways it's going to make it better. You may go to a doctor's office and go through a scan, and the system may be prioritizing for the radiologist so that they don't miss some important things, maybe giving them a second opinion. So these are all ways in which it will seamlessly start playing a role, and I think we'll see the effects of that.
You mentioned if done correctly, and there are concerns. There are fears that AI will replicate the worst of society, even under Google's own roof, from your own researchers. What scares you most about AI? What keeps you up at night?
It's the most profound thing we are working on as humanity. And anytime you're developing technology, there is a dual side to it. I think the journey of humanity is harnessing the benefits while minimizing the downsides. The good thing with AI is it's both going to take time. I think I've seen more focus on the downsides early on than most other technology we've developed. So in some ways, I'm encouraged by how much concern there is. And you're right, even within Google, people think about it deeply. We publish a lot of research. I think it's more important that there are outside academic institutions, governments, nonprofits looking at this issue as well. So I think it'll be an issue which will have a lot of attention, which gives me a lot of comfort as well.
You said you'd pick up some new hobbies in the pandemic. What did you start?
Cooking pizza, just learning to cook, which I was never good at. I've gotten a little bit better.
اشتركوا في قناة اقتصاد الشرق مع بلومبرج على يوتيوب لمتابعة برنامج الصباح مع صبا. معي أنا صبا عودي.